This is Tom Pelissero joining us now. Tom, how are teams handling COVID-19? This with the World Health Organization officially in the last half hour deeming it a pandemic.
There are some teams, Andrew, that already are adjusting their pre-draft travel plans for coaches and scouts. This is a heavy travel time within the NFL because of these pro days. And then eventually down the line, you have some other coaches flying around to work guys out individually. Well, what I can tell you is that several teams already have made changes. That includes the Pittsburgh Steelers, who confirmed that they have adjusted some things travel-wise for the time being because of this concern. Specifically, the Steelers are not having people regularly taking commercial flights to pro days. They can drive it if it's within about a 6-hour radius. Otherwise, there are private planes potentially if it's a Mike Tomlin or a Kevin Colbert who's making the trip. But certainly some changes there. We were told that another team already has pulled its coaches off the road for now. A third team had canceled a private workout with a player. Everybody figuring out exactly how to proceed. I've also been told by a half dozen teams that right now it is business as usual. We'll see going forward here how these precautions might affect other things. The NFL, though, says for its part that the league meetings, the NFL draft, two big things coming up on the calendar, both on as scheduled as they monitor the developments.
This with those league meetings scheduled in Florida at the end of the month and the draft scheduled for Las Vegas coming up next month, April 23rd. James Palmer is in Norman. He is live with us also on NFL Now at Oklahoma Pro Day. James, what more can you tell us from there?
Yeah, right now behind me, Andrew, it's Jalen Hurts throwing to CeeDee Lamb, kind of the top thing everybody wanted to see at this pro day. And it's a smaller group than you've seen at years past here at OU. Now, there's only about 20 teams that have sent just one representative. 2 teams are not here in the Saints and the Steelers. And a lot of what Tom said is what I'm hearing talking to people here at this pro day. There's actually some teams that are telling their scouts that it's up to them whether they want to go to future pro days. And if they'd like to go, they have the option, and some are doing it, driving said 12 hours to, say, Clemson tomorrow to go and attend that pro day so they don't have to be on a commercial flight. So some teams leaving it up to their scouts. Other teams, as Tom said, I've spoken to, said they're not going to send assistant coaches to pro days moving forward. Talking to Kenneth Murray as well, who's going to go through his visits to other teams. He is still slated to take about 15 visits moving forward. His travel plans have not changed. But again, the attendance here, Andrew, much lower than we've seen at years past at a program as big as Oklahoma.
All right, James Palmer at Oklahoma Pro Day will actually talk about what we saw on the field there from Jalen Hurts, and I spoke to Kenneth Murray as well, the linebacker, and CeeDee Lamb also in attendance. So 2 potential top 15 picks there and a quarterback, but 1 head coach and 1 general manager. Thank you, James Palmer. Thank you, Tom Pelissero. Meantime, as Tom said, actually, no, let's move on to the Kirk Cousins. This is from the Pro Bowl here. As yesterday, we had 7 proposals, if you will, handed to us for those league meetings coming up at the end of the month. One of them would eliminate the onside kick. One of them would make what we saw in the Pro Bowl here with a 4th and 15, which they tried. Pete Carroll, Kirk Cousins, alas, it did not work. Again, 7 proposals here. Tom Pelissero and Mike Garafolo that the competition committee will have handed to them once we get to the league meetings in Florida. Any thought that any of these, Mike, might pass, including the onside kick?
Doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of momentum right now, but listen, anything can happen once you get yourself into a room. I really didn't think at this point last year that we had enough momentum for the replay of pass interference to pass, but then once everybody got there and the discussions were had, and they were very passionate discussions, it wound up happening. So we'll see once these meetings actually occur. But right now, not sensing a lot of momentum on the 4th and 15 thing. And look, that's going to throw a lot of traditionalists off. They like the idea of the ball going on the tee after a score and then either being kicked deep or squibbed or dribbled or whatever you want to call it for an onside kick. But the fact of the matter is that the onside kick isn't as effective as it used to be years ago when you could overload one side, you get your guys down there and just plow into that first line, then have your other guys recover. It's actually become more of a desperation attempt that sometimes works if you get a weird bounce. But the play is safer. That was the biggest thing a couple of years ago, to make sure that players were not having these head-on collisions, so this has been the other effect. The 4th and 15 idea is that the conversion rate for that would be about the same as the onside kick used to be. So now you've got some kind of exciting play. I mean, personally, I like it, but I know that there are a lot of traditionalists in the league that aren't quite feeling it right now.
All right, 4th and 15 would replace the onside kick, which last year we saw only succeed 12% of the time. Real quick, Mike, Sky Judge adding an 8th official upstairs doesn't seem like that has a lot of momentum.
No, it doesn't, and that's something that is another way of stuff that coaches wound up trying to challenge, and the fact of the matter was that the league, Al Riveron was not going to sit in New York and overturn things that were basically judgment calls while watching them live. They had to be blatant hits. So now the thought is, now you can get this judge on the field, in the stadium to help see these things and to correct these obvious mistakes. Another way to kind of assist with officiating. But like you said, doesn't sound like we've got a lot of momentum on that one right now. Again, a couple of weeks out from what the league meeting is scheduled for in Florida.
Mike, before we get to Tom Brady, let's get to another Patriot free agent, Kyle Van Noy, who's going to be on NFL Total Access coming up a little bit later. I know you've spoken to him, as we'll all ask other free agents around the league, would they like to play with Tom Brady? What about the Patriots free agents?
It was a very interesting one. I had a great conversation with Van Noy on a number of topics. Go to NFL.com and check out the entire story there, and go in front of your TV later tonight to catch him on Total Access, like Andrew said. But talking about Tom Brady, that was the one thing that I was curious about, because quarterbacks around the league going to have to wait for the Brady domino to fall. We are certainly going to be sitting here watching that extremely closely. I did wonder, how are these Patriots teammates who are going to be free agents, and there are a number of them, including Van Noy, safety Devin McCourty, Matt Slater, the special teams ace and team captain. And what Van Noy said to me was, he had all due respect for Tom Brady and his decision. He said he wishes the best for him, but he hopes to be a priority for a team. And if a team comes after him and makes him that priority, he's going to have to make his decision on his future and his future alone. So I thought that was a really interesting response from Van Noy there, who is a versatile guy with a number of former Patriots defensive coaches out there. Brian Flores in Miami, Matt Patricia in Detroit. Heck, even Joe Judge, the special teams coach for the Patriots the last couple of years. He is now with the Giants. So Van Noy knows there are going to be people out there who value him and what he brings to a defense. Could be interesting to see once the gates open how quickly he is snatched up.
Of course, all of this with Tom Brady's decision, as you said, kind of hanging in the air. And let's remind people as well that coaches can only say so much. There is a thing called tampering. Yesterday, John Gruden was asked by some reporters in Las Vegas about the possibility of Tom Brady. He was on a red carpet, and Gruden said, basically, "You're killing me, man. We love our quarterback. Our quarterback's a really good player." Derek Carr, I want to reiterate that to everybody here in Vegas. We've got a good young quarterback. And the film, the statistics, the analytics prove it. We're going to be in the market, and this is always the key sentence here from John Gruden. He always leaves himself a little wiggle room. We're going to be in the market to try to improve at every position. And with that in mind, welcome Mike Silver to the program. Every position. Mike, the timeline's kind of funny here. There are teams that kind of need to know about Tom Brady yesterday, and they don't.
Right, Andrew. And Tom Brady is keeping teams guessing right now, and that is his prerogative as someone who has accomplished more, arguably, than any player in the history of the sport. But some teams are better positioned to handle the uncertainty right now than others. And the Raiders are one that actually don't need an answer right away because, as John Gruden said, they have a quarterback they really like in Derek Carr. And obviously, if Tom Brady does not decide to come to the Raiders and that deal doesn't get done, they go full steam ahead with Derek Carr. Another team that really wants Tom Brady but feels as though they can withstand the uncertainty is the Los Angeles Chargers. If Tom Brady calls today and says, I want to play for you, which would be tampering, but maybe through back channels, the Chargers would be ecstatic and they'd throw a party. But Coach Anthony Lynn, very comfortable with Tyrod Taylor as his at least bridge starting quarterback. So they're not stressed out as much as others. And even the 49ers, who have at least pondered the enticing possibility about bringing Brady in, maybe trying to flip Jimmy Garoppolo back to the Patriots. That would be an extreme move. But if that's something that they would even entertain, it's not urgent because they don't have to do anything with Garoppolo right now in that scenario. Not so comfortable for a couple of other teams. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are highly interested in bringing Brady in, kind of need to know as free agency starts and as the legal tampering period starts, because they've got to make a decision on Jameis Winston, and there are other quarterbacks out there they might want to make a move for. And similarly, the Tennessee Titans, who with Mike Vrabel and Tom Brady, there's an obvious connection, former teammates, close friends. They had a great thing going with Ryan Tannehill. They are presumably predisposed to want to have Ryan Tannehill keep that going in 2020, but it's not something you can slow play. If Brady's coming and that's what you want, great, make the move. If you're not sure, you might not want to let that dawdle with Tannehill because he would have other suitors. And some of these teams we mentioned, if they don't get Brady and Tannehill's out there, would probably take a look at him as well. So, period of uncertainty. Brady's not giving teams a lot of clarity yet. And if you are the Bucs and the Titans, that could be particularly unnerving as the countdown continues toward the start of the league year.
And just to clarify once again, the start of the new league year, 4 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesday, but Monday, noon, that's when teams